Good morning, everyone. So we are live. It's Saturday. It's 10 a.m. here in Germany, and I hope you had a good start to the weekend. And today we do a live Q&A session. It will go for let's say 60 minutes. And I received many interesting questions, so thank you for that in advance. And I'm looking forward to the session. As always, if you join the chat, then please let us know from which country you are. So please write in the chat where you're from so that we know how international we are today. Cool, I see people are joining. Again, this time I will do the live only on Instagram and not on YouTube because I have currently some technical issues at the moment. But I think this should be fine for today, but I will upload the episode on YouTube as well. So, as always, we do it a little bit differently than we did it last week. So last week I went through all the questions that I received up front first. And today, let's do it a bit differently. So if you have any questions, then just write them in the chat and I will go through the questions in the chat first, okay? I have some backup questions from those of you who sent me some questions up front. But if you have any questions, then just write them in the chat and I will prioritize the questions in the chat to make it a bit more interactive. And I know that some of you don't have maybe the entire 60 minutes time for attending the live session. So I will go through your questions first that you write here in the chat, okay? Good. Perfect. Then I would say, let's start. So if you have any questions, just write them in the chat. But until then, I will start with the questions that I received up front, okay? And for those of you who follow me for a while, some of the questions or some of the answers you already know. But nevertheless, I will go through all the questions that I receive just to make sure that I react to every question. Cool. Okay, so the first question, and this is always a question that I receive on a weekly basis, is what firm do I work for? And I answered this last week already, and those of you who follow me for a while, they already know it. But I'm working for a strategy consulting boutique, and this firm is called Stern Stewart. Okay, the firm has its roots in New York and USA, obviously. But it was founded in the 90s or something, and then they opened some international offices. For example, in Munich as well. And then in the 2000s, there was a management buyout from the German consulting team. Okay, so the German consulting team did a management buyout and bought the brand Stern Stewart. So although it is a New York-based firm, or it was a firm that was founded in New York, it's now owned by the German head office, okay? And what we do is basically we do strategy consulting. So we are in direct competition to McKinsey, Bain, BCG. We have the same rates. We even have higher rates, to be honest. And we try to position ourselves in the premium strategy consulting sector, okay? So the projects that we typically do are, strategy projects, and this, as you know, includes increasing revenue, reducing costs, and improving the organization. And what else to say? The special thing about the company I work for is that we are quite small, so we only have 100 consultants in the German office. We have some international offices as well, but the thing is that we have a very, very strong focus on entrepreneurship. Okay, so every consultant is also an entrepreneur. And the good thing about Stern Stewart is that you get a lot of experience from the very beginning. You also get a lot of responsibility from the very beginning, because we have some very low hierarchies, especially compared to firms like McKinsey, BCG, and Bain, where you usually have several layers between you and the client, okay? And this is a bit different in our firm, and that's also one of the reasons why I joined the firm, because I'm not a person that works pretty well in a kind of very hierarchical environment. I'm more the guy who needs like flat hierarchies and kind of room to kind of show what I can do. Okay, so that's the reason why I joined the firm, and so that's basically it. Okay, so the name of the firm is Stern Stewart. It's a strategy consulting firm, and direct competition to McKinsey, Bain, and BCG. Also, by the way, same requirements for new hires. Many people ask me if I can or if they can do internships at Stern Stewart. So the thing is, if you don't have the requirements for McKinsey, Bain, BCG, then it's very unlikely that you get a position in Stern Stewart. So I am at Stern Stewart. So I would say that Stern Stewart is even a bit more selective than McKinsey, BCG, and Bain. Okay, so that's it about the firm I work for. So just to repeat for those of you who joined, if you have any questions, then just write them in the chat. This is an open Q&A session, okay? So I will prioritize all the questions in the chat first, and then I will go through my backup questions. So feel free to write the questions in the chat, and I will go through them first, okay? Good. Then, if there are no questions in the chat, I will continue with the backup questions that I have. 2 questions that I received were about preparing for case interviews, okay? And I mean, my channel is mainly about skills and skill development, so I probably don't go too much into detail, but I will give you some tips that worked for me back then, okay? So I think there are mainly 4 things that you should consider if you prepare for a interview at a consulting firm, okay? So I think like step number 1 is that you prepare the cases, obviously, okay? So this is very, very important. And people ask me what kind of books do I recommend. And to be honest, so I prepared in Germany, so I used some German books, and the German books that I used are, the first one was Squeaker, that's the name of the book, and the second was the book of from E-Fellows, okay? But those are 2 German books, and I'm not exactly sure if they are available internationally. I think Squeaker maybe. I think E-Fellows is a German a kind of platform, that a career platform, okay? So those are 2 German books, okay? So Squeaker and E-Fellows. But there are also 3 international books that I didn't use them myself, but I did some research and asked some friends of mine who work in international in an international environment, or at least not in Germany. And they recommended 3 books. They said Hacking the Case Interview, Case Interview Secrets, and The Ultimate Case Interview Workbook. Okay, so these are 3 books that people recommended to me, that I also came across when I did some research about books. Okay, so if you talk about, or if you want to know what kind of books you can help you to prepare for the case interviews, I would say, so the German ones, Squeaker and E-Fellows, and then international ones is Hacking the Case Interview, Case Interview Secrets, and Ultimate Case Interview Workbook, okay? Another way, or what is also very important if you prepare for case interviews, is that you kind of practice the cases. And there are many platforms out there, or many people who help you practicing interviews. I think probably the most or well-known platform is Prep Lounge, okay? And this is basically a platform where you can create an account, and where you can find coaches who help you to practice case interviews. Those are usually former consultants from the target consultancies, and then you can choose a kind of mentor for you who helps you to prepare for those cases, okay? So that's in terms of case interviews. I would read the books, okay, and also find a coach to help you practice in cases, okay? So this makes it much more easy for you. Also, I would try to prepare for math, okay? So in each case interview, you have to do some kind of calculation, but I mean, it's not that complicated, to be honest, okay? So it's kind of helpful to be quick in head calculations. There are certain apps that you can use. So just go to the App Store or and look for math or head calculation apps. There are many apps out there, and I think it's in my opinion, it's overrated. Okay, so yes, you have to play a little bit with the numbers, but it's no rocket science that is required in case interviews. Okay, so try to be kind of strong in head calculations, and also, I mean, you have to be strong in written calculations. Okay, so if you have to work on a business case in a case study, then obviously you should be able to get to a kind of right result. Okay. So I would also prepare for the math section, but I mean, if you are good in university in math, or if you just graduated, I mean, from high school and are math is your strength, then you should be fine. And I think you don't have to prepare in any special way. But if this is one of your weaknesses, then probably you should also practice doing head calculations and so on. Okay, so first one was cases and books, preparing for case studies. Second is prepare for math. Third is, I would also recommend you to read the news. Okay, so obviously like 2 or 3, 4 weeks before you have the case interview, make sure that you read like the main newspapers, okay, especially the economy section, so that you know what people are talking about. And there will be probably some questions about that, so this is also very helpful. And at the end, the fourth thing that is important is to prepare for the personal fit. Okay, so in any consultancy, the personal fit is also very important. Okay, so there are the hard factors, like how good are you, is your CV basically, then how good are you in your case studies, how good are you in your calculations and math, what do you know about the markets. But then there's also this personal part, okay? And I think it's important to just be yourself, okay, at the interviews. And also what I would to do is, I mean, you should be informed about the company you apply for, okay? So try to connect with people who work in the firm up front, and try to understand how people think, what kind of personalities there are, what kind of the focus of the firm is. I think this is very important. I mean, because obviously, I mean, if I interview someone and I know that this person has no idea about the company, I mean, I never would hire this person, because I think, okay, do the research. And obviously, this person does not seem to be very interested in working with the firm. So I think it's also very important to know, do your homework and know about the firm, and make sure that there's also a personal fit. Good. So that's about how to prepare for interviews. I will go through some questions now. And again, for those of you who joined, if you have any questions, just write them in the chat. I will go through the chat questions. I will prioritize them today. And Raul asks, if you want to exit from management consulting to some other roles, what options can I have? Okay. Well, I mean, this is very typical. So many people only use consulting or go to consulting for like 1 or 2, okay, let's say 2 to 3 years. Okay. So this is very typical, especially with the large ones. So especially if you talk about the big 4, if we talk about MVP, many consultants go there for like 2 to 3 years to have the brand on their CV, and they use that as a stepping board to a kind of other management position. And I mean, you have many options after working in consulting, okay? So I think probably the most popular one is to go to a corporate, okay? So for example, you work in, for let's say McKinsey, for example, okay? Then you are, if you work for 2 or 3 years, then you're probably in a senior consultant role. And then what's very typical is that the client offers you a position, okay? So then you take probably a middle management position, and from there you work yourself up probably to the top management. Okay, so going to a corporate is one option. A second option is to go more in the private equity sector, probably, because as consultants, we're usually very good in optimizing companies. And private equity firms usually like to hire consultants because we are very good in doing all the analysis. And also many private equity firms have operational arms, okay? So usually more experienced consultants in operational optimization also go to the private equity sector, because salaries in private equity are much higher. And this is also a very attractive exit option for management consultants. Okay, so this is the second bucket, like probably private equity, not banking that much, to be honest. Private equity or venture capital firms, this is probably the second category that I would see. And the third category is probably to found their own startup. So many consultants, after a couple of years, go out and found their own firm. And this can be both a tech startup, but it could also be like a own consulting firm. Okay, so I think the three options are to go to a corporate, to go into the investing industries, so like private equity and venture capital, or to go and go out and become an entrepreneur. Okay, so these are probably the three main options that I would see for as exit opportunities for management consultants. Good. Any books for on case studies? Raoul asked again. Okay, I just mentioned them. So the German books that I used were from Squeaker and eFellows. Okay, and some international books are Hacking the Case Interview, Case Interview Secrets, and The Ultimate Case Interview Workbook. Okay, so these are books that I can recommend. Good. Then if there are no questions in the chat, I will continue with the questions that I received up front. And one question was about salaries in management consulting, okay? And the question was actually, how much can you earn as a project manager in Germany? And this is a very complex question because it highly depends, okay? So I can give you some ranges because it depends on what kind of firm you're working for. So the upper range are usually strategy consulting firms like MBB, okay, McKinsey, Bain, and BCG, or like boutique firms or smaller firms like Stern Stewart, okay? This is the upper range. The lower range is probably more like technology consulting, so like Accenture, Capgemini, and firms like these, and probably more the operational consultancies. And I include probably the big four also there as well. So I will go kind of through the stages, and I will give you, or through the career levels, and give you a rough idea what salaries are like. Okay, and I refer now to Germany, and I assume that you have a master's degree, okay? So in Germany, it's usually very common to do a bachelor's degree, to do a master's degree, and then join a consulting firm. In the US, it's a bit different. They usually do your bachelor's, then you go for 1 or 2 years to a firm to get some work experience, and then you do your MBA. Okay, so it's a different kind of system, and I refer now to the German system just to give you a rough idea, okay? And my assumption is, as I said, that you have a master's degree and then you join a firm, okay? So in the lower range, so this would mean for Accenture, Big Four probably, if you start as a consultant, then you probably can expect around 50K per year, okay? So this is what I would expect. If you join a strategy consulting firm, then we probably talk about between 70K and 90K. Okay, so this is roughly what you can expect if you work for a strategy consulting firm, also depending on the bonus and so on. If we talk about boutique consulting, so Stern Stewart, they pay much more than 90K, for example, for new hires, okay? But this is the exception probably. And so this is the consulting level. If you go to a senior consulting role, then you probably can expect a raise of 20%, I would say. So, I mean, now you can do the calculation for a senior consultant. In the lower range, it's probably then between, let's say, 60, 70, 80K, depending on the firm. Strategy consulting, then you get above 100. And if we talk about project managers, I think at the lower range, you get to 100K, around 100K. And in the upper range, I mean, it gets up to kind of 200K, 250K, but this highly depends on the type of firm that you're joining, okay? So I know in my firm and in other firms like McKinsey, BCG, you are above 200K a year as a project manager, okay? And I think it highly depends for what firm you're working for. What I can recommend is that you do some research. There are pretty cool platforms like Glassdoor, for example, where you can look up specific salaries and you can use this as a reference. And if you have a specific firm in mind that you want to do research about, then go to glassdoor.com, I think it is, and there you can check out all the salaries for all the levels. Good. Then another question that I received up front was, do I need to speak German fluently if I work in a German consulting firm? And I would say it highly depends on the company. So usually most consultancies are very international. Okay, so this means that, for example, the Big Four, for example, MBB, they usually have a very international culture and they also work internationally. And especially in international firms, it's very common that probably for example, as a German consultant, that you work in Eastern Europe, or that you work like in, I don't know, in Spain, in France, in Italy, in England sometimes. Also, you can work in the US. So for international firms, it's very common that you also have this kind of international exchange, and therefore the entire language of the company is most of the time English, okay? So I would say you don't need to speak German for those larger international firms if you want to work in Germany. It's a bit different if we talk about more specialized and smaller firms. So if you have German consultancies with a more local focus, so maybe they are very focused, I don't know, smaller firms, if they are focused on operational improvement for German medium-sized companies, and their main clients are in Germany and not even the large cities, but more like on the country area, and then obviously it helps to speak German if you want to work in Germany. But this is only the case for like the smaller consultancies with a more local focus. Okay, so if we talk about the large and international firms, I think then English should be totally fine. Okay, and then you don't need to speak German fluently. Okay, so this is what I would say talking about speaking German if you want to work in Germany. Good. Again, for those of you who just joined, if you have any questions, then please just write them in the chat. I will prioritize the chat questions today because I think last time I couldn't go through all the questions. I have some questions here in the backup, but if you have any questions, then please just write them in the chat and I will go through them first. Good. Then another question that I received up front is, how can you get new clients and market your service as a management consultant? And I think this is a very great question. But it's actually, to be honest, it's more relevant if you are on a project manager level and if you want to go to the partner track. So if you are a junior consultant, it's very unlikely that you are involved or that you play a major role in business development. I mean, you can do this, but it's really the exception, okay? So, I mean, if you're a project manager and if you're thinking about going on the partner track, I think, yes, then it's important to think about how to get new clients and how to get results in business development, okay? And for me, there are mainly 4 things to consider, okay? So before we talk about how you actually get clients, I think there's one very important question and you have to be very clear about that. And the question is, as a consultant, so what problem do you solve for a client? Okay, so think about that. As an entrepreneur, and I think if you're, or as a salesman, okay, you need to provide solutions for problems. And if you don't know what your solution or what kind of problem you want to solve as a consultant, then it's very hard to sell any projects, okay? So for example, for me as a strategy consultant, my problem that I solve is that I want to increase the value of companies, okay? And I do that by increasing revenue, reducing cost, or restructuring the organization. So that's my value proposition. So I'm very clear about what kind of problem I want to tackle. And this obviously helps me to be very, very focused. For an operational person, an operational consultant, the problem could be to improve inefficient processes, for example, okay? By applying certain process optimization tools or tactics, okay? So it's very important that you focus on a clear problem that you want to solve, because many consultants that I talk to who want to found their own company, they just say, yeah, I want to be a consultant in whatever, okay? I just want to, I don't know, because the thing is, especially in larger companies like McKinsey, BCG, the Big Four, the portfolio of services is very, very large. So it's very helpful for you to get down to a niche and to really focus on only one or two things, or it's the best case to only focus on one problem that you want to solve, to really focus and kind of canalize your marketing efforts. Okay, so step number one, in my opinion, is be really specific about and really strong about what kind of problem you want to solve for the client. The second question that you need to ask yourself in order to sell projects is, who is your dream customer? Okay, and this is very important, and this is definitely a mistake that I made back then when I was in a student club in a student consulting club, and I was responsible for acquiring projects. And the issue that I did back then was that I didn't exactly know who my dream customer was. Okay, so I tried to approach everyone that I knew and ask him if they need consulting services. But 90% of those people weren't even my target group. Okay, so this was very inefficient. So be very specific about what kind of people you want to target. Hi everyone. So make a list and write down what is your dream customer. Okay, so for me, my dream customer is a CEO of a medium-sized company. Okay, with medium-sized company, I mean between 500 million revenue and probably 2 billion revenue. So this is my dream customer. If you are on a operational level, maybe it's more the COO, not the CEO. If you are, in the financial industry, then it's your CFO or someone in the middle management. It doesn't matter who it is, okay? But just be very specific about it. Because the reason is, I don't want to waste any time to network with some, media managers, or to network with someone in the startup industry if my project focus is not on startups, for example, okay? So it's very important that you really know who is your dream customer and who do you want to target. Then the third step, once you know what problem you want to solve as a consultant, and once you know who your dream customer is as a consultant, then the third step is to build a funnel, okay? And with that, I mean that you, first of all, try to build a brand, that you build a strong network, and that you then get to pitches. So this is the funnel, okay? Branding, networking, pitches. Branding means that you become an expert in a certain field, and it's obviously like the problem that you want to solve. For example, if you are a sustainability consultant, then obviously you should build a strong brand for yourself around sustainability. Okay, so tools to build a brand nowadays obviously is social media. So write a lot of LinkedIn articles. Maybe you set up a podcast. Maybe you do a YouTube vlog or something like that. Maybe you do an Instagram channel like I do. So there are many opportunities or many ways to get into this branding stuff, okay? And I would start with that. And this also helps you to kind of sharpen your expertise. Take me as an example. I do daily lives about management consulting. And obviously throughout the process, I'm now doing that for like a year or so. Obviously, I learn every day, and those lives are also a kind of opportunity for me to reflect on my learnings, okay? And obviously, this helps me also from a kind of expertise side, okay? Because I think about management consulting every single day, okay? And I reflect my thoughts every single day, and I receive a lot of interesting questions every day. And obviously, this helps to also improve my consulting skills, because my job for you guys is to help you to become better, and through that I become better as well, obviously. And it's the same like if you want to, for example, be a sustainability consultant, then write about sustainability, learn about sustainability, share this knowledge through social media, and this is the best way to build a brand. Then the second step, and this is very important, keep in mind consulting is a networking business. So you sell projects if you have a great network. This is really key. And don't forget that network is kind of, you have to put a lot of effort and a lot of work in building your network, because you have to kind of give before you ask, okay? Sometimes you have to build relationships for or over a couple of years before you finally sell a project. One example is a partner I'm currently working with. I think this is pretty impressive. And he sold a huge transformation project That's probably, project budget several million euros, so really a large one. But he told me that he's working almost for free for this account for like 10 years. So sometimes it just takes very, very long time until you finally sell a project, okay? And this is what I mean by building your network takes time, okay? Invest in relationships and don't get into this kind of sales mode too quickly, okay? Networking is about building relationships in the long term, okay? Not only on a professional level, but also on a personal level. So that's very important, okay? And finally, once you have a network, then at some point people will approach you and say, okay, I have a certain project, do you want to pitch? And then you are in the pitch, and then you are probably competing against other companies. So that's the funnel, okay, at least as I see it, okay? So just to break it down again, so first, be sure about the problem that you want to solve as a consultant. Second, know who your dream customer is. Then third, build a funnel. And a funnel consists for me, like you do the branding, you build a network, and then you get into the pitch contest. Okay, so this is how you do business and development in management consulting. And one final remark, I just said that you probably need a lot of time until you build a network. So start as early as possible. Okay, so I'm now a senior consultant, probably will be a project leader soon. So I start to build my network at the moment, okay? So because I know maybe I want to become partner in like 4 years. So it's very important for me to start to build my network now, okay? Because in 5 years, it's too late. I know that building a network takes a very, very long time, and I want to prepare for that, okay? So I start now as a senior consultant and project leader to build a strong network to kind of benefit from it in the next 4 to 5 years, okay? So this is my time horizon if we talk about networking. Good, then for those of you who just joined, if you have any questions, then please just write them in the chat. I will go through the chat questions first, and I see. Und Ramadania asked any tips on how to ace a case interview. Yes, I just talked about that early in the beginning. So just to summarize, otherwise you can rewatch the episode. I will upload it on IGTV afterwards. So my tips for acing case interviews is, first of all, prepare for the cases, read books, and also get a case trainer through Prep Lounge, for example. Prepare for head calculations, so get quick in all the math stuff. Also be informed about what's happening in the world, so read the news, read business articles, read business newspapers, and also make sure that the personal fit is good. Okay, so be informed about the company and just be yourself at the day of the interview and try to be a nice person. Okay, so this is what I would recommend. Good. Guys, if you have any questions, then please write them down in the chat. Okay, so Entrepreneur asked, I joined a bit late, and did you already discuss some tips on how you can go about finding the important people and making first contact? I assume that you talk about a business development thing right now. So, okay, identifying important people you want to network with or you want to sell projects to is... Okay, so I just said that it's important to identify your dream customer, right? So this means, for example, I say my dream customer, I can talk about myself now, my dream customer are CEOs of medium-sized companies. A medium-sized company for me means between 500 million revenue and probably 2 billion revenue. So this is my dream customer, okay? So how do I identify them? Actually, I just do research and have a list or build a list of potential people that are in my target group. Okay, so I usually start like in my network. Maybe I know already some people who fulfills criteria, and if they are not in my network, then I do some research, probably on LinkedIn, for example. This is very, very, on LinkedIn you get all the information. Also, in my target group, it's a bit helpful that there are not that many companies or CEOs or C-level positions that I can target. So probably in Germany or Europe, I mean, we talk about a couple of hundred people, okay? So this is kind of doable. And then, I mean, just make a list, and then obviously you need to try to get some contact to them. I think so that's where the branding comes in, okay? That's the reason why I recommend to start with the branding first, okay? So to publish articles, to put out some content, because obviously it's very hard to approach those people or to get access to those people if you don't bring any value to them, okay? And the easiest way to bring value to them is if you write about things that they are interested in. So what I would not recommend is just to write them and say, okay, can I meet you? I mean, probably they say no. I mean, it's like this random sales guy who just cold calls people. I mean, obviously cold calling doesn't work in management consulting, okay? So it's about building a network. So what I would do is to convince through content, okay? So I would say, make content that people are interested in, try to make them read your content, and once you see that they are interacting with your content, then it's time to approach them maybe and try to build a personal relationship. So that's what I would do, okay? So don't write them directly. So I would rather do content that is interesting for them, see if they are interacting with my content, and once my target or my dream customer is interacting with my content, then I know they are not cold anymore, they are warm, and then I can approach them. And then I don't go into sales mode, I try to build a relationship first, okay? And this is what I said. I mean, it can take a couple of years to build that, okay? But I think it's worth it. And I mean, consulting is a networking business, it's a people business. It's not like selling some commodity good. It's selling information-based products, and it's usually very expensive. So you need to have very, very good relationships in order to sell those projects, okay? So that's how I would go for it. Another opportunity is that you build your network through kind of networking events, for example. But again, I mean, depending on who your dream customer is, it can be very challenging to get access to those people. Okay, so I think the only way or the easiest way you can start right now today is to put your take your phone and to do some content about things that your target group is interested about. And this is the easiest way to start, okay? This is much easier than getting access to those people without any content, without a platform, without being relevant, okay? So I think I would start with the social media track. Good, then let's continue. If you have any questions, as always, then write them in the chat. Otherwise, I will go through my questions that I received up front. Cool. Then I received the questions, how can I prepare for internships, okay? And I made a YouTube video about that. You can watch the episode on YouTube, obviously. But there are mainly 4 things that I would do, okay? So first of all, if you want to do a summer internship at a consultancy, then you should make sure that you know about Excel and PowerPoint. And I can't emphasize this enough. It's very important to know all the basics, because if you do an internship in a management consultancy and you don't know all the basics in PowerPoint and Excel, then chances are very low that you will receive or will get some more advanced tasks where you can show your soft skills, okay? So it's very important to become a pro in Excel and PowerPoint. So do online courses, try to build Excel models yourself, try to do as much presentations as you can get or as possible before doing the internship, okay? So that's the first part, Excel and PowerPoint. The second part is to read books, okay? So read all the management consulting books. Make it a habit to read at least 1 book every 2 weeks, okay? 2 books a month. I think this is like the minimum. And, also at least 1 book a month, okay? And just try to learn about management, learn about business, and books are a great tool for that. So this is also how I would prepare. Then my third tip was to enjoy all the free content out there. So maybe you follow my account. I do content about management consulting skills like every single day. And if you follow me for 3 months and if you ask regular questions in the Q&A sessions, I think this is like the best way to prepare, okay? So just learn from people who already went the road that you want to go, okay? And it's not only my account, it's also like Heinrich from Firm Learning. And there are many other platforms and channels as well. So enjoy the free content, okay? And the fourth tip I can give you to prepare for an internship is to build a network into the consulting industry, okay? So maybe you know already some people who are in management consulting, and try to get access to those people. Ask them about their experiences. Try to get a view behind the scenes, okay? So try to understand how people in management consulting think, and try to learn as much as possible before you join the internship. Good. Then entrepreneur. Okay, another question. Yeah, if that's okay. Yes, of course. Please, if you have any questions, please feel free. Just write them here in the chat. That's why I'm doing this live Q&A. So don't hesitate to ask whatever you want to know. Okay, so I'm meeting with some of the top management board. Yeah, board members, senior vice presidents, VPs. Okay, it's more like a 2-day networking event. Any tips on how I can make a strong impact? Okay, cool question. Okay, that's very good. So I can recommend. Okay, so one book that I can recommend is to read The Way of the Wolf from Jordan Belfort. Okay, Jordan Belfort is if you watch the movie Wolf of Wall Street, so he's this crazy investment banker played by Leonardo DiCaprio, who takes all the drugs and does all this crazy stuff. I mean, this is what the movie is about. But what people often forget is that he's a genius sales guy, okay? And if you read his book, I mean, in Wolf of Wall Street, it's all about the drugs and all the stuff. But actually, he's a great salesman. And I love his book, The Way of the Wolf. And in this book, he talks about his straight line sales system, okay? And this is a book that I can recommend to you, that you should definitely read. And one tip that he gives is, so first of all, I mean, don't waste any time. I mean, talking about board members, senior vice presidents, I mean, even this can be a very good target group for you. But think about it, if this is really your target group, okay? So is it the right industry for you? Are they, I mean, even a vice president, this could be the vice president of the innovation department. But if you do kind of, I don't know, financial consulting, then the vice president of innovation is not your target customer. Okay, so don't waste any time to connect with him, because, I mean, you can probably not help him. Okay, so it's again the same. So be aware what problem you want to solve for those people. Okay. Know if they are your customer, your target people, and then if you talk to them, I think it's important. So Jordan Belfort always says you have to be sharp as a tack, and sharp as a tack. He says be sharp as a tack, enthusiastic as hell, and an expert in your field. Okay, and this is how you want to be perceived by those guys. Okay, sharp as a tack means that you have to be a very smart person. Okay, so think of questions that you can ask them that so that they understand that you are a guy who is a quick thinker, who understands things quickly. Okay, so just try to be perceived as smart. Then enthusiastic as hell, show them that you are burning for your topic. Okay, so if you are, I don't know what consulting area you're in, but if you're, for example, a strategy consultant, then show them that you're really passionate about management consulting, because obviously if they see, okay, here's someone who really is living for his topic, obviously they will be interested in you. And then be an expert in your field. Don't say stupid shit, okay? This is really important. And try to, be just informed, and try to give them some information that they appreciate, okay? So that's very important. And maybe one thing that comes to my head is, if you already know who is attending, then make a list up front with all the people. Okay, make a list. Then check everyone, or mark everyone that you want to build a relationship with, and only focus on a few people. Okay, so the more specific you can be about your networking purpose up front, the more effective the meeting is. Okay, so let's say maybe 20 top management people join the event. Then try to get the list of the attendees and then mark, okay, from those 20 people, what are the 3 people that I really, really want to connect with, okay? And also write the reason why you want to connect with them, okay? This is very important. I mean, just don't connect with them because, I mean, they are important people. There's no point in doing that, okay? And this, I mean, this also doesn't make a good impression, okay? So really think about who do you want to build a relationship with and why. Make a list. And once you identify the 3 or 5 most important people in this event, you can also kind of develop a strategy how to approach them, okay? So develop a strategy how to be perceived sharp as a tech, enthusiastic as hell, and an expert in your field. So maybe you do some research about certain topics you want to talk with them, for example, okay? And this makes it much easier for you to prepare. And again, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. So rather than getting the business card from like 20 people in the room, it's much more important to kind of pick the 3 to 5 most important people and really get into contact with them, okay? And I think that should be your goal, and that's my recommendation. I hope this can help you. Okay, so if you have any questions more, then please ask. Good. Then next question. If you are developed something and sent an update, if other key stakeholder didn't come back with an update for 1 week or more, how many times can we contact the stakeholder and when stop usually? Okay, so yeah, it depends. Okay, so the question is, I mean, so probably the situation is that you, okay, so you send an update, so just to understand it right. So you send an update to a stakeholder, probably someone in the project, and you did not receive any feedback. So are we talking about like is it in the context of a project or is it in the context of business development? Maybe you can give me some more background. So I would usually say, I mean, just annoy them, okay? If you need an answer from them, then just, then ask them until you get the answer. That's how I would do it. I mean, I know people, I know I really know executives who, by principle, do not reply to the first 3 emails because they say if someone does not have the stamina to kind of write me the 4th time and to be kind of persistent and if they don't show their commitment, then they're not worth my time. Okay, so I know people who use that as a strategy to kind of select with what kind of people they want to work with. Okay, so I would just be persistent, and if you need an answer, depending obviously on the context, I mean, then just send a reminder every week until you get the answer. Okay, so that's how I would approach it. It's a tech project. Okay, yeah, then I would just be persistent. And if the channel with email doesn't work, then maybe you give them a call. Maybe you try to talk to the supervisor. So that's what I would do. Okay. And just get access to those people. And guys, people's management, building networking, but also like business development, it's like it's a numbers game, and you have to invest a lot of time. And yes, people will say no, and yes, people will reject you, but that's part of the game. Okay, just be persistent. So if you need an answer in the project context, but also in the business development context, just be persistent. Okay, if you need that information, then make sure that you get them. Good. So do you have any questions? Because I went through all the questions that I received up front. We still have 5 minutes left, or 7 minutes. So if you have any questions, then please just write in the chat. Otherwise, we can stop the session a bit earlier. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm great. It's great that I could help you. Good. Then I will give you some time. If you have questions, then please write them now in the chat. Otherwise, I will do a live tomorrow again. Tomorrow is Sunday, so probably in the evening. Freddie, yeah, thank you. Okay, 18, cool. So are you already studying, Freddie? Maybe you can write this. Yeah, I mean, if you're 18, 18 is already a good age. Yeah. So if you go to university, I mean, I think the best, just to be honest, if you're studying, probably, yeah, it doesn't matter what you're studying, but if you're studying, I mean, focus on good grades, obviously. I mean, but you have still plenty of time. I would say, I mean, it's important that, I mean, it's are always the same tips. So make sure that you build sufficient Excel and PowerPoint skills. Do that as early as possible, because I mean, you have to do it. The earlier you do it, the better it is. And if you're 18, I mean, you still have plenty of time to improve your skills. Okay, but start now and start work on it every week. Okay, so start with Excel and PowerPoint is probably very important. Okay, because those are the basic tools. Then again, I think if you're 18, it's a perfect time to start reading. So if you don't read a lot, then start now. Okay, so I started. If there's so one of my mentors, and he is like his net worth is more than 100 million. Okay, and he says the one thing that he regrets is that he didn't start reading business books earlier. Okay, he started with I think 25 or something to really read business books. And if you're 18, I think it's perfect. Just start reading one book per month. Every month, okay? Business books, okay? So not like novels or fantasy books, also business books, okay? Very important. If you are consistent with reading one book per month, then start reading 2 books per month up until you get to 4 books per month. So I think, so I on average read 1 book per week, okay? And I would highly recommend to start reading as fast as possible, okay? And then over time, I mean, it's kind of an exponential learning curve that you will see, okay? That you will see. And also, I mean, this is the third tip. So read a lot. Second tip, read a lot. Then third, follow free content. So if you follow my channel, that's great. Try to learn as much as possible. Try to ask questions as much as possible. Also follow all these other accounts like Heinrich from Fern Learning. And there, Christine from Tech Consulting. There are many cool channels out there. Enjoy the free content. And fourth, also try to build a network, okay? So probably if you go to university, there will be some, and your university is a target university, there will be some career events, okay, from companies who want to recruit from your university. So try to get to those events and try to build a network into the industry and start as early as possible. So usually, the typical way to get into consulting is that for example, if you want to work for McKinsey, then you probably start more on with a firm that is where you can get in a bit easier, okay, and then you step up throughout your internships, for example, okay. So maybe you do your first internship at a very small consultancy, then you go, for example, to a Big 4 consultancy, then to a tier 2 level strategy consultancy, and then finally you go to McKinsey, for example, okay. So this is a very typical way what you can do, okay. So this is what I recommend to you. Good. Then Shreya Nimani asks, how do I prepare for a career in consulting? Okay, focus on your grades. So this is very important. It's the easiest to get into if your grades are good. And then, as I just said, so for me, there are 4 important soft skills and 4 important hard skills. Okay, and these are my buckets, and this is how I think in terms of skills. So the 4 important hard skills is that you know the tools like Excel, PowerPoint, that you also know the consulting methods, okay, so that you have a good problem-solving process, that you know how to conduct interviews, how to structure workshops. The third is that you have management know-how. So this means that you know like an organization works, how a strategy project works, for example, all of that stuff. and also that the fourth hard skill is to know about the consulting career, industry. Okay, so those are the 4 hard skills, and the 4 soft skills for me are first communication, second organization, third is strong mindset, and fourth is to know how to have a good work-life balance. So those are the 8 skill buckets that I think are important for management consulting. Okay. But if you have to start and have to choose one, I would start with Excel and PowerPoint, for example. And as I just said, then start reading, enjoy the free content, and build a network. This usually helps a lot. Okay, then I usually spend good amount of time doing my initial research about the organization and its components before getting on a call. Yeah. When I do not get that project, I feel overwhelmed. What is the limit? Okay. So your question is that, okay, how much do you prepare? So I think your question is, so how much should you prepare if you're interacting with a client? And, this is a difficult questions. Yeah. Okay. How much should you invest times of? Okay. So is this a business development call? So are you calling them to do a kind of business development? So do you acquire projects? Maybe you can elaborate on that. So I'm not sure if you talk about, because you should prepare obviously for your business development calls, and you should also prepare for your project. So it's typical. I mean, it's relevant for both aspects, and it's very hard to say. It depends on many factors. Okay, so for example, like how much time you have available. What I can give you are some general principles. Okay. So the first principle is that proper preparation prevents poor performance. So this means obviously the best prepared wins. Okay, so the short answer is try to be as prepared as possible. On the other hand, is there's another saying, and it's like done is better than perfect. Okay, so this means that, I mean, don't overthink it. Sometimes it's just it's just very helpful to just do the call before you don't do it, okay? And the third principle is the do it now mentality, okay? Because if you wait too long for doing the kind of call, then your kind of drive goes away, and then it's very hard to do the call at all, okay? So I would say try to get as much preparation as possible, but don't get stuck in the preparation, okay? Sometimes it's just important to jump into the cold water and just do the call, okay? So think about it. Are you afraid of the call? Because, I mean, you feel uncomfortable with it. Then sometimes it's a good idea to just do the call, even if you're not completely prepared. But obviously you have to do your homework, okay? So it's very hard. So you have to balance those two aspects, okay? And it's very hard to give a general rule, okay? I can only talk about these kind of principles that help me in my career, okay? So I hope this helps you. Okay, then about reading books, do you read them cover to cover or skim through and find important points? It depends. So I always have one book on audiobook, so I listen to it. So this is usually when I'm traveling. And I have one book that I read. And I usually read with my Kindle. So I usually read them from the beginning to the end, okay? But sometimes if there are passages that are not interesting for me, I skip them. But I found out that I think the process of reading is also very important. I mean, there are apps like Blinkist, for example, and they summarize books for you. You can use that as well. But I usually, maybe I'm a bit old school, I read them from the start to the end, usually. Yeah. Okay, and then I have, like, as I said, just 2 channels. I read on the Kindle, I read on the audiobook, and if there's a book that I really want to work with, then I also order it physically, that I'm able to mark it, to write notes in it, and so on. That's how I do it. I like to read articles or short business insights and videos. However, reading non-fiction books are not my forte, okay? Could you please give some tips for reading business-related books? Yeah, I would start with topics that interest you, okay? So every one of us is interested in business. Otherwise, we wouldn't work for or wouldn't be active in the consulting sector. So what I would recommend, a good place to start is just think about a certain question that is interesting to you. And it doesn't have to be, I mean, I'm not a fan of top 10 business books to read. I mean, if you're interested in that, then you can do that. But I would go rather for personal interest, because I mean, reading is about discovering or going, I mean, doing, it's a kind of personal journey, okay? So start with one topic that is really, really interesting to you. And maybe, so for me, it was back then, like 10 years ago, it was like all the digitization stuff, okay? So I was very interested in how Facebook works as a company, how Google works as a company. So I started reading books about Google, for example. And then this thought led me to another thought, okay? And then I went to more like organizational principles, management style, and so on. But it was a journey. And I didn't start like with a book that didn't interest me. I started with a book that I was really, really interested in and that I wanted to know about, okay? And from then, I mean, questions come up, and I mean, it's just a journey. So I would pick a book that you really, really like, and even if it's more like an easy to read book, I mean, that's totally fine. Okay, you don't have to force yourself to read. And that's, maybe it's also a good tip. I mean, if you don't like to read the article because it's not interesting to you, then maybe it's the wrong topic, okay? So your career focus should also be on a topic that you're interested anyway, okay? So maybe that as a tip. Okay, pitch calls for acquiring new clients. I want to provide some value beforehand. Yeah, okay, very good. But so I'm not a fan of cold calling if you do pitch calls, okay? So I would rather try to get warm contacts first, okay? So I mean, maybe you can write about your success rate with cold calling, but my experience is that cold calling in management consulting is very, very difficult. I think the smarter way is, as I just described a couple of minutes earlier, is to go through building a brand and to build a network. I think this is easier. But if you have good experience in cold calling, then it's okay. One tip, I mean, also I can give, if you do cold callings or if you are interested in acquiring new clients, read the book The Wolf of Wall Street from Jordan Belfort. And here he also talks a lot about what kind of tonality to use, what you can say. And I think it's also very interesting to kind of use a script if you do business development calls, okay? But as I just said, I don't use them personally for acquiring projects. I think networking is a better way, but it takes more time. Good. Do you have any more questions? Then just write them in the chat. Otherwise, I think we already had 60 minutes. What do you use to schedule your time? You mean what kind of tool I use? So in terms of organization, I use Todoist for my personal to-dos. Okay, so this is just a online tool where you can write or collect all your to-dos. So that's Todoist. And for the scheduling, I have two calendar apps. Obviously, for my work, I use Outlook, and then I have Google Calendars for my private stuff. So these are the. And do you schedule every hour? No, I don't. I made a video about organization, how I organize my week. It should be on YouTube. And so my main principle is that I write down all the to-dos. Then I also estimate how much time I need for that. Then I put that in my calendar. I also take all my write all my calls and fix appointments in my calendar. And I always try to have a 50% buffer, okay? So I only plan 50% of my time. Because the thing is, especially in consulting, I mean, you have to expect the unexpected, okay? So chances are very high that your detailed schedule plan will not work because, I don't know, client calls or partner calls or whatsoever, okay? So I think having a 50% buffer really, really helps to kind of being relaxed, because what you don't want to do is that you pack your day full of stuff and then there's one interruption and your entire day is kind of screwed up because I mean, you didn't plan for the unexpected. Okay, so I only plan 50% of my day usually. But what I do is, so I plan a day like the day before, okay? But then I usually only plan from 9 or from 8 a.m. to 12 or 1 p.m. and 12 a.m. or 1 p.m., okay? So it's like I plan the morning, and then after lunch, for example, I plan the afternoon, and then after dinner, I plan the evening, okay? But the day before, I only plan 50% of the day. So I hope this helps. Good. Any more questions? Let me check if I missed anything. Also, maybe as a remark, if you have any questions, then always feel free to direct message me. And if you have any requests, I mean, I do daily lives. So if you have any specific questions, for example, like the business development topic, I mean, maybe I should do an entire live about that. Then please just let me know. So I'm constantly looking for new topics that you are interested in, because obviously I think I know what you're interested in, but obviously I don't know it all the time. Good. Cool. Then I would say, let's call it a day. Then thank you for your time. It was a pleasure as always. I really like the Q&A sessions. It's a lot of fun to interact with you guys, and I want to say thank you for all the support and all the nice messages that I receive. So it's really motivating to see that there's a kind of impact, and it's really fun to talk to you guys. Cool. So with that being said, I hope you have a great weekend. Please enjoy the weekend. Here in Munich we have fabulous weather, so the sun comes out. Probably I will go for a walk. But first, I have to go to my fitness coach. I have a coaching session today, and then I go to my hairdresser because my hair is getting pretty long. Cool. Then greetings to Denmark from Germany. Greetings to India and all the other countries, and then talk to you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Bye.